let's get this meeting open here. I appreciate your patience. Chris, what time you got?
We got 6:03.
All right, meeting is officially called to order at 6:03. Any opening comments from anybody? Now that we're starting the new year, what your thoughts are, what do you think, what do you want to see? Quick opening remarks.
I just have one thing on the agenda. My last name is spelled wrong.
You know, you know
Have
what?
an extra N.
I double checked that on the website. Seriously.
I'll double check if they got it spelled wrong on the website then.
I mean, I've corrected this how many times now that I've tried, Chris? So, all right, give it to me again. Your last one only has one R in it.
No, one N. Borreson. And I think there's an.
Borres. Oh, well, I have it on the new one.
Okay.
Let me test these out.
The one that they've got on the website shows clerk, and then it's got Borrenson.
Borreson.
Yeah, and this one has Borrenson.
That's the new one. This must have been an old one that I used or something.
No, this one's got the same thing.
Oh, wait
It's
a
got
minute.
the extra N.
You know what I'm looking at? It's your email.
Yeah, the email's correct.
I went to get that correct.
Yeah, the email's correct, but the last name
Okay.
spelled above it is
All right.
incorrect.
Okay. Chris, I apologize. I have been
No
trying to get you right for a long time here. All right. But, any other opening comments? I would like to have a few minutes. You both heard about Susan Lopez. Thank you. Do you have any questions for her? Do you have anything you want to say?
Welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Okay.
Congrats.
Yeah. It's a good committee to be on. It is. Minutes?
Yeah, I had emailed them out, but I got 2 hard copies in case people didn't have a chance.
I saw him. I'm good.
Okay.
Double-sided.
Did you get a copy of the minutes, Susan?
I'm looking at the email that was sent. I think, the document must have something.
Yep, no, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Do you usually take minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do?
Currently, Chris is the clerk. The only 2 current members are Chris is the clerk and I'm as the chair.
Okay,
And we're going to vote on that tonight.
okay.
And since Brisson isn't here, he gets the short end of the stick.
Decide if you want to keep your job.
That's right.
Well, with all the other assignments, I might as well just keep rolling with this.
Okay. Take this. Okay. Okay, good. We don't have to do that tonight. Okay. I like that one, Chris. You noted about financial information. I'm going to try to have our secretary and maybe somebody else come in and discuss what our options are for financing stuff.
Okay.
Okay, kind of get up a little bit. That's good. Okay. All right, we'll cover that. Dan, I got one thing I want to discuss on that. More streamlined. Chris, okay, after we approve the minutes, I'd like you to elaborate a little bit more on your comment at the bottom. More streamlined, okay? Being recorded by, okay. Yeah, he's familiar with that one. Okay, good.
What's Lucas?
Lucas is
acronym for
is an
something.
apparatus system they use for cardiac
Okay.
patients. I believe that's the one, the Lucas is the one where they put it on your chest and it
Oh.
automatically pumps your heart
Okay.
to keep it going. I think that's the Lucas.
Okay.
Okay, minutes look good. Do I have any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Chris, appreciate that. Okay, before we go any further, I'd like to discuss the election of officers for next year and thoughts on who's gonna take positions. Chris, and if anybody wants this chair, feel free to go for it, okay? I've said that before, and I have no attachment to a chair. I'm just doing it and running it because nobody else wanted it. So if you want to know what I do, I'll let you know what I do. Otherwise,
Well, are you up for continuing to serve as chair?
I'll do it if the committee wants me to, sure. You know, if somebody else wants to do the scheduling, the booking the places, doing the reports, doing the agendas, it's okay with me.
I was gonna stick with the clerk, so.
Okay, all right, clerk. And
So in terms of election, is that for the duration of the term, or are we doing 1-year terms on
you
that?
can only do 1 year
Okay,
because somebody new comes on the board every year, and every year you have to appoint new officers. They don't stay that way for 3 years.
well, my inclination would be, with a newly constituted board, for continuity's sake, my preference would be to have you serve another year, if you're up for serving another year.
Sure.
And then, obviously, we can always discuss it again in a year.
Absolutely. I may not be here in a year. God knows he might want me.
That's a safe statement for all of us.
That's right. That's right, Dan. Okay. So are you willing to take on the vice chair again this year?
Yes.
Okay. So the 3 officers are me as chairman, Chris as clerk, and Dan as vice chair. That means there are 2 members, Britton and Susan will be serving members on it. I think, Chris, you and I are up next year.
No, I
You're
go
in
through
27.
26.
I'm in,
26. You're 25, so I think you're,
I'm at the end of 25, you're 26.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then Susan's got
up with
one,
me.
yeah,
She's up with
she's
me next year.
making up Mike's last year, so yeah, so we'll have 2 up for appointment next year.
All right, so we have that down. Do we have a motion to appoint officers as suggested?
I will make a motion to appoint Harry Seckman as chair, myself, Daniel Gracie as vice chair, and Chris Borenson as clerk.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Susan seconded. All in favor, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Do we have any old business that anybody wants to bring up? Because pretty much with the new board, the old business has been settled. We've got stuff we'll work on for the new, but any old business out there? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. The reason I put reading of the new bylaw down there is because until the bylaw was posted on the website, it wasn't, even though it had been approved by the Attorney General, it wasn't officially a town law. So once it got posted to the town, it actually became the official bylaw. And do you have a copy of that, Susan?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
That
I should be good.
more current one. Dan, do you, or you were?
I have the one.
29 is what,
29 and 30
okay.
amended for Article
Yep.
2. The only difference is this one.
What we had been looking at throughout the process. Remember when we were getting drafts of it regularly?
Yes,
And it changed several times, and we had some assurance about some language that I think is pretty critical to the authority of the CIPC.
right. What specifically are you referring to?
Well,
Dan?
okay, so let me find the old language, because that's, I think, the starting point.
Yeah, I didn't bring that with me.
And I'm gonna find it, but while I'm looking for it, it was something to the effect of no capital expenditure proposal should be forwarded to the town meeting or to the, I think, to the board without review by CIPC.
Correct.
And that was removed from the CIPC bylaw, which we knew was going to happen.
Yeah,
However, we were assured that it was being put elsewhere.
if you look at D, it says the committee shall report to town meeting its recommendations on any article referred by the select board pursuant to chapter 11, article 2, section D, that expends money for a capital improvement.
Yeah, but I read that as an obligation on the CIPC, not so much an empowerment of the CIPC. So I gotta find this original language so you can see
Well,
what I'm
we
talking about.
can't, if the article isn't sent to the CIPC, we can't make a recommendation on it. I know what you're saying. The old one said if any.
There we go. No appropriation for capital improvement shall be voted at any town meeting unless that improvement is considered in the committee's report.
Right.
And obviously, there are the exceptions, the extraordinary circumstances exceptions.
Right.
But that was, I don't see a direct equivalent of that section in the new bylaw.
You're right, that language was changed, and I think Peter recommended that change to be in compliance with Chapter 2, Article 2, Section D. I could be mistaken, because God knows, we spent months in meetings going over all this stuff. But if you want, we can take a look at Chapter Article 2, Section 4 for next time, and just see the impact of it. And your concern on that is what, Dan?
Well, I think it just weakens the procedure a little bit
Procedure.
in
Yeah,
terms of the passing through the CIPC.
right. I know. That's,
Because with that in there, basically, you either have to establish that it's extraordinary circumstances or put it through the CIPC.
right.
And I think the general understanding is that's still the case, but maybe it's not quite as enforceable as it was before.
Maybe not. If, like I said, if we check into that, we can discuss that at the next meeting, just to see if we have any purview, because I knew there was some change coming, because there would be some items in the future that didn't want to go through CIPC. And I think you probably feel the same way on that, so that's why we're a little cautious on it. And the moderator shall call upon the committee for such report to the discussion or vote of such article. But if an article is gonna go to the town, it has to go through CIPC. Is that kind of the way you read it though, Dan?
Well, so just again, though, like that section D that you're talking about, it says the moderator shall call upon the committee for the report. So, it does say that they need to have the report, but it doesn't say that they can't consider it if it's not in the report.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And again, Peter Crane had assured us that that enforcement mechanism was still gonna be part of the bylaws, just not in the CIPC bylaw.
Right.
So I just don't know where else it could be then, other than it would have to be with either town meeting or with the select board, I would think, in one of those bylaws, but I haven't reviewed the whole thing word for word yet.
Yeah. No, that was an
time to do
article,
that.
I looked for that too, that was a concern of mine. They created this committee 2008. Because at that time, they had 3 select board, members on the select board. And they were being bombarded with all this stuff. And they just didn't have time to investigate it, to look at the stuff, to really do a background, if you will, on the stuff that's being. So they put that in there, and they put that phrase in so that the select board couldn't backdoor the CIPC.
Right.
Now, that was put in by Joe Becker at the time he sponsored the bill. So I know the language is cleaned up, but like you, I just hope that's because if the select board has the right to not go through CIPC on $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million funding projects, then maybe CIPC isn't needed if they don't go through us, because you know what I'm saying? So I just hope that they do honor that. They live up to the fact that this is what it says, and we go through CIPC. But we'll wait and see. Extraordinary circumstances, we've had those in the past. If somebody comes and I've had board members come to the committee, we've had emergency meetings in the past to push stuff through. And if it's a citizen petition, I don't care how much it's for, it goes on the warrant, if the board wants it on the warrant. So that's where they can decide whether they want to put a citizen petition on. Anybody can do that. It's just out of all the committees and other boards' hands at that point. So that.
Can I ask why the change? Why was the initial change made?
It was part of the overall update of all the bylaws. Some of our bylaws haven't been done since, I think, 1941.
Oh, okay.
So it was in the process of doing all the bylaws. And you'd think that I would have pushed to keep the language the same, only if it didn't, because rules changed the state, I can only assume that Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 4D explains this. Because I did look through it, and you're right. And this was when Mike was here. I think Joe Becker was here at the time too, wasn't he?
Yes.
The one who did this? Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on because other than that, it's pretty explicit, 5 years. And it does say, and that we did make one change, that the total cost in excess of the limit defined in Select Board financial policy, which currently is $25,000. Now, do we have a recommendation to the board that we'd want to increase that?
I thought we were kicking around 35. I mean, I've heard 35 and 25 almost interchanged.
I mean, we haven't really done a full year with a 25 yet, right? So do we want to kind of keep an eye on it and see? And if it seems like we're getting hit with a lot of stuff that's 22 and isn't really worth our time, then maybe, I mean like 20, just over, let's say
Right.
let's say 28.
Right. I mean, we've got, coming up, we got a $35,000 item, we got a 55, so we're not, capital was designed to look at the big stuff. So we started with 10 because we were getting our feet wet. I thought 10 was too short, so 25, but if we go to 50, and Austin had talked to me about it, I talked to him and he said, it probably wouldn't even be a far-fetched to go to 100 if you guys are doing the job of capital and not little things. At one point, we used to vet the police cruisers, and they were $45,000 a year. But because they didn't meet the criteria, they weren't held longer than 5 years, we had them go through the town. We didn't do those anymore. But for now, I agree, Dan, I'll agree with you. 25, we should sit on it, maybe, and think about it, talk about it. What do you think, Susan? Because you've been involved in some school stuff, and they can be
Yeah,
big, you
it's
know?
usually higher numbers,
Yeah,
but I don't know where those smaller projects or smaller requests come from and what the need is, and if then they're not taken into consideration, so.
We used to get the, small stuff that was, let's say something that was 15. But that, I mean, with inflation, that's now probably 22, right?
Right.
I still don't
Right.
think we're getting, that sort of the small thing is gonna be over our threshold yet,
right.
just based on inflation.
Well, I know in the past, we had certain things from the library. Like they wanted 50 chairs that came to $18,000 or whatever. Well, we didn't deal in multiples like that. That really was not necessarily what we call a capital expense. It was a depreciable item, but not a major capital expense. So we did that. We got requests from Recreation who said that, I want to do this. I'd like to have this field taken care of. Well, the field was $8,000. Well, that didn't fall under our preview. So we couldn't recommend that. And of course, they had trouble getting it through certain boards for that. So those are the little things that we learned over time to try to, and that's why I asked about the 25.
I think the other thing though is, last year, the departments and the boards that we got stuff from have been used to your process going back. Now that Austin's got the new set and he's really pushing people, I do wonder if more people and boards are going to realize, oh, we've got to go to Austin, and if our list might grow or we might get more smaller items now that people are becoming aware of the process and Austin's pushing it and really doing an active job to get out in front of everybody to make sure we get all this information in a timely manner.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I guess to your point, maybe we sit on it, and if we do start getting a bunch of newer boards or newer departments jumping in on the process with
Yeah.
little things, then it
Yeah, because the
Reassess.
board can, at any board meeting, the board can change that policy and increase it. We don't have to wait for the state or anything like that. That's one of the reasons we took it out of here. Otherwise, we'd have to go to the state to get it verified, and that takes 6 months to a year. So no sense in doing that, that's why. Okay, so we'll keep that at 25 for now. Here's the other thing. The one thing that we really have done in the past, Austin kind of took it on last year. The committee shall specify a date by which all town officials, regional school committees, and other regional bodies shall submit through the town administrator information concerning all capital expenditures. I think we might have suggested to Austin what we were looking for, but our timeline, if I remember correctly, didn't necessarily coincide with his request because this was the first time he did it. And we used to send out in 8.5 by a letter sheet, here's the form, here's your deadline, October 31st, get it back to us. And that was, maybe 3 departments got back to us on that. So the way he's doing it, we got a lot more involvement, but we need to set a timeline. We don't have to do it now, but we should do it at our next meeting of when we need to get things done that we need it in. With that being said, we already know what 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 are gonna be. So for that stuff else that comes in, not a big deal. As long as some of that stuff is still purview today, like somebody didn't get her on a grant, that kind of thing. Okay.
So can I ask a clarifying question then? If other things come in that are a high ticket number, but if I understand, you already have a projected project in alignment, but if they fall under the previous dollar amounts, what then happens to the greater requests that come through.
You mean if something falls under the $10,000 amount? Can't apply it. That new bylaw is in effect and we have to do it now. So it has to be 25,000 or above.
Okay.
Is that your question?
Well, the existing requests that have already been put through for the
No.
next 5 years.
That was, well, the existing request was what's the word I want to look at? A preview of what's coming down the road. We didn't vet it, we didn't rate it, we didn't do
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
anything.
still have to consider those on a
Still
rolling
have to
basis.
consider all
Okay.
that stuff, Susan.
Okay.
And I did, because I knew you were new here, so I wanted to get you
I looked for a few things. Got a couple of things.
copy. This is what we were handed last year. I don't know if you have that or not.
I have one, I have a short one.
have the basic, but
I have the
that's-
basic.
This lists all the
Okay.
stuff that we have that's coming through and the different years that's coming in.
Okay.
2026 is gonna be a huge year.
Okay. And none of these have been rated yet.
None of those have been looked at or rated yet. No. Okay. Any other questions or going to close out the bylaw, Article 4? None? Okay, let's move on then. Thank you for your comments on that. Next thing I want to go into is, well, first off, I don't really want to go through it. Have all of you, well, Dan, you need to again take the open meeting law, because you've been reappointed, so open meeting law and what's the other thing you had? I'll get sworn in, so you
I did that today.
Okay, so we're good to go. So the open meeting law, and then look at the code of conduct and ethics. That seemed to have been an issue at when you were getting elected, so let's make sure we're on with that. And then let me go into the rating sheet. I want to discuss one thing on the rating sheet that kind of bothered me on it, and I didn't think it ahead of time. There you go. Because everything looked okay, but I felt some of the numbers were out of sorts. And that was the one effect on town revenue under F. And when I looked at it, I wasn't happy with the numbering system. We don't give, if the revenue in the town increases, that doesn't have as much effect on the town as revenue that decreases. That has a much bigger effect on it. So to give a 12 to a large increase and only a -5 to a large decrease didn't seem to be a fair analysis of the revenue cost side. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
How did we come up with that to begin with, if anybody remembers?
On town revenue,
Yeah, those numbers, like the 12, 6, 0,
we
-2,
just,
-5.
we thought those were good numbers to use, that's all, Dan. I don't know if I might have just started plugging numbers in, and then when we discussed it, we said, let's use this for the rating system. I have my thoughts, but I want to hear from you first.
So are you thinking that should there be a large decrease, the impact on the town is going to be far greater than any of the other projects that might be proposed?
Well,
So the negative number should be more reflective of whether it's an increase or a decrease?
well, I looked at it this way, Susan. I said, we run a $28 million budget. If we have a $600,000 increase in revenue, is that really going to make an impact in our budget? But what if we have a $600,000 decrease in our revenue? when we're projected for 2026 to be estimated $1 million deficit already?
I guess the question is, you gotta look at it in the net, right? So if you have two different projects, one of which boosts you by 600K and the other one drops you by 600K, they cancel each other out.
Right,
So therefore, shouldn't the points also cancel each other out?
that was kind of my point, right. Looking
So
at
in
it.
which case, I don't think you'd want one or the other weighted any stronger, but we'd have to come up with a number of points that would ideally zero out. Obviously, in practice, you're never gonna get it perfectly zeroed out.
Right, right. So, I mean, if we look at minimal increase is 6, minimal decrease should be -6. And then large decrease should be -12. Now, that brings up another issue then is, what do we mean by minimal decrease or large decrease? And my thinking on that was, what if we have a minimal decrease that says the effect on the town's revenue was between 1 and 3%, or 1 and 2%? Because now we're talking roughly close to $300,000 to $400,000 decrease in revenue, or close to $700,000 decrease in revenue. For a large decrease would be greater than 4% or greater. As an example, effect on operating and maintenance, large increase. That would be, for example, when Harmony Homes got built. That money that's coming in will be close to $800,000 a year. That's a pretty decent increase for the town. But what if we had a company in town in which we lost $150,000 or $200,000 in taxes that went away? Or if we have a project out there that's gonna cost the town $300,000. That has to come out of stabilization or something, but it's gonna affect revenue. That's my thought. So I mean, I like your thinking about canceling each other out. We just have to.
Yeah, and we also have to think of it in terms of all the other categories, because we don't want one of them to be disproportionately impacting the overall score.
Right. So what if we were, because everything else is pretty much 10, except for years requested and passed, but we know why we did that. And
Just for the, for the sake of argument, I think the fact that there's a larger number on revenue as opposed to operating costs for large increase versus large reduction kind of makes sense, because a large reduction in operating or maintenance costs, if you're talking about one piece of equipment, is not gonna match up to a 3% of the town revenue
Right.
change. So in that sense, it does make sense for the revenue to have to sway more in either one direction or the other
okay,
over maintenance costs. But then again, like you said, it's already not even, because a large decrease on town revenue is -5, just as a large increase on maintenance costs is, when in practice, those two are probably not the same.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So we could at least start there. And if we come across, and I know this is here, but I don't know if in my lifetime I'll see a 12 on a kind of a huge impact, unless, for example, it's a grant. Then that grant could be a $2 million grant, or it could be a grant for like the dispatch, in which they got, I think, a $1.2, $1.3 million grant. Well, that's close to, what, 7%? Or 5%? No, it's, close to 4% of the overall, so. So do we want to change? Do we agree then that we should go with the same? So a minimal decrease would be -6, and a large decrease would be -12. Do you agree on
I
that?
think we can do that. I would be okay with that.
I don't think we need a motion for this, considering we're doing. Then that have to bump up to E. Is there anything there then, if we're doing a large reduction in operating costs and we have a large increase, should then those two balance each other out as well?
Should we shift large reduction to 5 and minimal reduction to 2?
We can do that, sure.
Because again, I think dollar-wise, we're gonna be talking smaller numbers. Even if it's a big piece of DPW equipment and there's a big decrease in costs, what is that really gonna be? Like $7 grand less a year in operating costs?
Yeah.
You know, it's not
I'm thinking more
the
of
same scale.
if we do, I'm thinking more if we do the water plant. The operating.
That's gonna be
cost-
bigger numbers,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's bigger numbers. So not necessarily equipment, but buildings, build another school, all that kind of stuff.
But we do use this for equipment too, though.
Oh, we do, absolutely. do.
So in application, we're gonna potentially see this, we have to keep that in mind with these numbers.
Right. I mean, we haven't had any problem with these in the past, but again, if it's a positive, that just costs us less. If it's a negative, it hits our budget, it hits our borrowing capacity, all that kind of stuff that we have. So that's kind of my thought of, if you want to go to a large reduction of 5 and 2, and then change this down here, keep this the same, -2.5, that's okay. I'm just trying to create some kind of consistency here. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm good with
Okay.
making those two changes.
Susan, what do you think?
I think it makes sense from what I'm understanding between the revenue and the other borrowing cost.
Okay,
It's kind
we'll
of-
do 5 and 2 on that one. Okay. Those are really the only ones that kind of caught my eye that I think need to be looked at.
I think this can be an ongoing discussion too.
I do too. I think we'll add more as time goes on too. So we'll change the score. Okay, so I'll get this updated. And on the back, I added that sheet so we could see everything that's going on, and we rated it like we did last year to make it easy. Are there any changes there? I kept the fire station on this one because that's gonna be a carryover.
What, that's gonna be a carryover, and is all the paving at all the schools gonna be a carryover too?
Yep, yep. I was hoping to get some of the paving done with ARPA money last year, but this didn't work out. Okay, that sounds good, so we got that rating. Oh, just for information, Chris, I don't know why I didn't catch this before. According to the open meeting law, any forms that are discussed at this meeting have to go to the clerk as well.
Yeah, that's why I scanned the last one, so I've started doing that.
Oh,
So I'll
okay.
scan this one in with
All right.
this meeting as well.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay. Okay. The capital process. I think we followed, and I started out with this, we started out initially with this, is developing a capital improvement program. This is by the state. It really, if you go into their website, it'll be under the Department of Labor website. And we've tried to follow this as much as possible, but in doing so, there were some things that we kind of, over the years, not just this board, but over the years, didn't do a good job of following up on. And two of them is inventory of existing assets. That inventory really should be in the capital report. We did it 1 or 2 years. So inventory of current, and that doesn't change much except when we approve stuff or it gets approved at the town meeting or if something gets sold off. But that's something we need to do. So inventory of existing assets, I'm gonna be asking you tonight to consider these. Second one is status of previously approved projects. So we know what we previously approved. And monitoring the approved projects, so that would kind of fall under the same thing. So when we have a board meeting, we can check with the town administrator as to what those projects are. Access town's financial capacity. That's where we're gonna have somebody come here and just tell us what the availability of money is, where it is, and how we can do it. I mean, cash flow is the primary source that most towns use to fund their projects. But borrowing capacity is the second one. So if we know those two, then we can, as we work through these projects, we can do that. So I know I've asked this before and it kind of went by the wayside, but who would like to do an inventory of existing assets? Oh, Brisson, you? Really? I thought I heard you speak up.
Now I know how this works.
Don't miss a meeting. And then approved projects, which are easy to get every year because that's on the town that's on the town meeting. Those projects are approved at the meeting. So that's easy to do, and then you just follow where those projects are. So that's kind of one and the same. Thoughts as who would like to do that? I know, Chris, I said that you were the secretary and we wouldn't put you any other stuff on that because you do that every month that we meet. So, Dan, is that something you can take on as vice chair?
Sure.
Okay. And we'll work to get all the stuff to you. So, and I'm thinking of it a computer, so if you need, you can send us a file. You know, keep that stuff on a file. And I know Brisson certainly knows about the assets and what we have. And then monitoring it. And then as far as assessing the town's financial capacity, I don't know, is there anybody here that would want to do that? Talk to the treasurer, talk to the TA, talk to read the stuff in regards to the levy limit, what our levy limit is and all that stuff. Because that's something that really I've been doing. Because if not, I can continue to do that. The other thing is, where did I see? Well, let me ask you, Dan. Do you want to take on monitoring those approved projects as well? Or just the status of where we stand on those at that point?
Monitoring how? terms of,
Well, for example, when we meet, I'll have Austin here, or I'll talk to Austin ahead of time. Just send us a memo to the committee where these projects are. You approved the playground, what's the status on that? You approved the parking lot, where do we stand on that? Or do you want us to go to the individual departments to get that? And I think Austin's the best place to go to get those. So if we've approved the fire truck, for example, where does that stand? Okay, has the bids been put in? Are they starting to build it? What's the process? The other thing is, and this is what I thought, once we know the thing is approved and it's finished, we've got it, what's the ultimate cost? What did we actually end up paying for that thing versus what we approved? I think that's a very important component going forward, particularly when you guys are gonna be on the board for the next 20 years too, so.
3 years at a time.
So, Susan, do you want to kind of get your feet wet
Sure.
and follow up on not just where the thing is, but when it's completed? Then it's up to you to talk to the town treasurer or to Austin or somebody what the actual cost was to get that done. That was part of the original development process that we have here.
Okay, so in that case, Dan's just doing the status of previously approved projects, which makes sense, cause you've been around, you know more of the previously approved projects than anybody else, and then Susan's gonna be monitoring the approved projects and final cost?
Right.
Okay, just
Final
wanna make
cost.
sure I've got. And then you're still gonna do
Yeah,
the
so
financial
Susan, you might wanna
capacity. Okay.
hold off until we have a firm list
Oh,
of what's outstanding.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Otherwise, we might both be chasing the same
okay,
information.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Once we know everything has been approved,
okay.
then we can get the cost.
Hand off.
What
Okay.
I'm trying to do is get everybody involved here on projects, so although you've been here for a while, I know that things get lost in the works if we don't follow up on them. And that's been one of my bugaboo, we got this fire truck, 1,850,000. What if it comes in at 1,600,000? Great. What if it comes in at 2,100,000? Okay, did we take into account inflation for this? We relied on the chief for his numbers.
It was
We got-
1.1 when we first started looking at it.
I know. Well, he told me once, he said, if you guys could meet and get this to the board and approve it, I can buy one for 800,000. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. So I tried to get a meeting. I think, what am I gonna do here? How can I get this done? I talked to him the next day, it's gone. It's like, I said, okay, we tried. I'm just hoping we get some grant money going forward. I mean, since we got a good grant years ago when we bought the first fire truck. And that was paid for nearly 80%. This one, I'm hoping but out of, what did he say at the meeting? Out of 3,500 people, 3,500 towns that apply for this grant, maybe 30 get one. So the odds are really astronomical. Okay.
Can I ask, what's the projected timeline in terms of getting a list on that, Dan? Do you think? Not to put you on the spot, I just don't know, I don't know what I'm in terms of.
I would hopefully by our next meeting.
Okay, so wait until the next meeting and then
Yeah, I
go
would
from
say
there.
so.
Okay,
I have some things that I'll probably send you that might help
okay.
of stuff.
Okay.
To get you started on that, okay?
Thanks, Dan.
One of the things we look at, if you read, let me get to the mission statement, because that really says a lot of what we do. And it's right on the webpage. And Austin kind of highlighted this too. The purpose is to enable the town to make planned and consistent decisions for the capital projects and improvements for its capital needs now and into the future, The framework will permit the recommendation and scheduling of funding sources to keep the tax rate stable. Balance debt service and operating expenditures, determine available debt capacity and acceptable debt service levels, and maximize the intergovernmental aid for capital expenditures. So grants are going to be a huge part of this going forward. But it's really to balance the debt service. So when I looked at the current debt out there right now, our yearly debt in the town is about one point around, not around, where did I do with it? Oh, here we go. That is around $1.4 million. Yeah, we have two big issues. Number one is the library. Debt goes away in 2036, and I'm gonna create a graph so you can see as debt goes down when we look at these projects out to 2036. And the public safety building, which we know we have problems with, is done in 2042. So let's see, 25 to 42 is 17 years. 17 years, I'll be 94. Okay. Okay. Now, Susan, you're not familiar with our schedule, so I'd like everybody to kind of give her an idea of how this works. Like we met tonight, do the officers, establish the committee, what we're doing some basic stuff, and looking at the upcoming information of what we're gonna have, the request. What would you say is step two?
Get the updated list from Austin.
Yeah, we would typically meet next, maybe late August, early September, right? At which point we may or may not have some requests have come in, but really the bulk of them would likely come in a little later.
Right.
October tends to be a peak time.
Yeah, we requested a deadline of September 29th or 30th in the past, so we'd have the stuff in our hands for October. Because between really August and December is crunch time. After that, we kind of make our recommendations, we put together the annual report. But doing the questions, do we bring people in? Who do we bring in? Is Austin better or are the departments better? Depending on the information we get. So waiting for those requests to come in kind of puts us on hold for moving forward, but we do have some basic information. We know they're gonna be requesting an ambulance. We could certainly bring the fire chief in and start vetting that, because that's not gonna go away. So that's kind of the process of asking questions, vetting, then going through the rating system. And if we need to vet again and then re-rate, we'll do that too if we need to. And then once that's done, then we'll create a report to send to Austin and the board of what our recommendations are. And we do the recommendations with the town administrator. He might have ideas of where stuff can be purchased or how the cash is gonna go. And that's why I say we wanna know that stuff, but he's in tune with it, so he'll help us put that together. And that. I can see some things already that's gonna be tough. I mean, we're talking a lot of money this year. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, if anybody wants another copy of this stuff to have handy, I got an extra one here with all the stuff on it, the requests. Yeah, I am looking at. Oh, 2026 ain't too bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the ambulance isn't until 27.
No, we've only got about, maybe 2.5 million. A little less than this year, but 2027, we're looking at $15 million.
Yeah, 27's.
That's the big year.
Big chunk.
28 is, and mostly that is from the fire. Fire and water and sewer. Those are the two main ones.
Well, yeah, I mean, 5 mil just for the water treatment facility rehab
Right.
in 27.
Right.
That's,
Okay. And sewer's gonna be a lot because we already approved an ongoing plan for them for about $170,000 a year. Ongoing for the
well,
infrastructure.
the other reason 27's so big is because that's where they've got the fire station construction. And
Right.
they've got the design, but we've kind of kept.
We wanna do it all at once.
Yeah, so I don't even know if that's gonna be,
Right.
is it actually gonna happen in 27 or most likely be pushed
See,
back if we haven't gotten.
Yeah. The other thing is we've hired an organization to kind of do a municipal facility study for us in terms of where are things gonna go. So I know the fire station's been for many, many years, just hasn't been on the radar, but it's been many years. But the town hall is another one. The dispatch is another one. I mean, our dispatch, which brings in multi-millions a year, is in a room about half this size. You got about 8 people, 10 people that are working it there. So we're looking, it's regional. We have I think 4 other towns that are part of us. So Mike's done a really good job of managing that, bring us money in. So that's the other piece is, what are the studies out there which we're gonna have to request if we're doing a fire station? Is it on the study? Do we need to see that? So, yeah,
Well, I think as I had said last time, trying to get started in the process a little earlier, so those are big conversations, like, but, you know, last year we had Chris and Seth the same night. That was a lot of information.
Yep.
That was a very long meeting. It would be nice if you can, hey, we know this is gonna be a pretty in-depth conversation, let's just schedule this person undivided attention, you know, be able to schedule those on a couple different meetings, so you're not throwing everybody on top of one another.
absolutely. If we set enough dates ahead, then I can contact them and see which of those dates are available to meet with us. You know, so we can do 3, even 4 dates ahead. Then I know we'll be able to get them here to talk with us. And I think we don't have anything other major on it, other than Wachusett. And Wachusett's never been to the table here to talk about what their expenses are gonna be. So I think we need to get them here. But we've got fire, DPW, and police. Police, not so much. I mean, cars and we're gonna see a few things here by the police department. But for the most part, everything goes through the town for them. But you're right, Chris. We need to do a better job of trying to line that up. And I do have, you probably already have, Chris, you and Dan, this is the breakdown through the years that we have in the, okay, I don't, did I give?
Is that
do
in
you have
here?
that, Susan?
That's on the website as well, you can
It's on?
find that, yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's-
can get that from the, if you actually go to the CIPC page, it's over on the left-hand side.
Right.
Capital plan, the 25 through 2030
Right.
capital plan,
Okay.
so you
And it
can,
does have all the pictures and it has all the equipment and all that stuff. It's like, I don't know, 60 pages
yeah.
or something. But I just didn't know if you had someone. And the reason, if you look down here in 2026, if we go down the list here, I don't know, Dan, you want a copy of this as we go down the list? Or do you have it? The sewer manhole and pipeline rehab, that's ongoing. That we'll approve it, because that was part of the ongoing plan we did last year. So that's kind of necessary. The Water 3/4 ton pickup truck. We'll have window replacement at the Council on Aging. That we'll discuss, Susan, because there's also some discussion about what do we do with the building. So if we're gonna totally rehab the building, then 75 doesn't come into play because we're gonna have to look at the rehab costs. If we're gonna sell it, it doesn't come into play. If you go to the next one, and that is fire. We had in 2025 the $1 million fire station design and construction. We decided as a committee that we should put it all together. Because if we do the $1 million design and then it never gets done, we just blew $1 million. Because if we wait 4 or 5 years out, it's gonna cost us another $1 million. So that's why we didn't do that this last year. And in 2027, you can see the big number. Cardiac monitor replacement, 90,000. Lucas replacement, 60,000. We hardly ever have anything from the police. They're doing their dual band radio replacement for 35,000.
Most of their stuff has a useful life that's too short.
Right. And that's the question with these radios too, with the way the communication system's working.
5 years is pretty optimistic.
It is. It is. So that might be one we turn back to the town. But the police put it on there because it meets that, at least the minimum 35. The salt shed the public works facility rehab for 20 grand. Guess what, guys?
We bundled it all,
We bundled it all.
so that's.
So we're not gonna be worrying about that for the next couple of years. So for 2026, that's gone. But we do have 150,000 salt shed construction. And then we have a brush chipper for 60 grand. Right now, I think we're borrowing Holden's or somebody else's. I don't think we have one of our own right now. And then we have a street sweeper. And I'll just mention that the street sweeper really is needed for the stormwater. So we're gonna be looking at, should that be funded by stormwater versus the town or by the sewer? So that may or may not come into play for us. I mean, we may recommend it, but where it's financed. So those are the things that are coming up. So not a lot for 26. So it might, this stuff might be pretty
Well,
good.
the school, the roof replacement. I mean, once you start getting into the school request, then it jumps.
Right,
1.5 for the roof replacement at, what's that, Central Tree. You've got the carpet replacement and the movable wall. The carpet replacement, movable wall aren't bad, but that roof replacement is a
right,
$1.5 million request.
yep. I think the hard stuff for our committee is gonna be vetting and really understanding things like a that shuts off the gymnasium. Yeah, I know, years ago, they wanted it replaced for $100,000, but it rose. When we look at a priority list, our priority, even though there's like 75 points, might top off that year at 28 or 30. I mean, we don't get a lot, so that one may have fallen in at about 15, so it didn't even get rated that year as being recommended because we didn't have the money to recommend it. So, again, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, I think it's great. I think this committee does its job right. It's worth it for the town to be able to have a committee like this.
Well, then what we said, we gotta carry forward a couple of items too.
Yeah, the asphalt paving for one. Luckily, we got a rating for that. Carry forward.
It's only been carried forward 1 year. It's still not gonna,
Yeah, well,
just keep patching it.
we were hoping to get some special money from the state for that.
Yeah.
You know, so, and these are things that we'll talk to Austin or to the superintendent or the director of DPW about. I'm concerned about the school, not the school, sorry, the library, to make sure that keeps, that's one of our prime buildings in town. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that, take care of that more. Did I miss any, excuse me, did I miss anything tonight? Okay. Here it is. Conversations, committee process. Any comments on the committee process? Do you have a little better understanding of how we're gonna do things, Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Now, next meeting dates. I'd like to have one towards the end of August. I think the last person comes back on vacation on the 18th. Which is Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, we've been doing them on Thursday, so I guess
Yeah, so it-
22nd would be,
29th runs into Labor Day. I don't know if anybody has any plans for that. How does the 22nd of August look?
Okay for me.
yeah, it's okay for me.
8:22.
Right now, I think we should be good.
Sue?
I think the evening's open.
Looks good?
Yep.
Okay, so
Doing
we'll do
6 or 6:30.
6:30. I mean, you like 6? Does 6 work better? This was the only time I did it
Depends.
because you guys are going on vacation, so I didn't want to run it late.
I think we might wanna talk to Britton, cause if Britton's coming back from, Hyannis or wherever his job sites are, he's
Yeah.
got a long drive. I know even 6:30, he's cut it close.
Yeah.
So I don't know if bumping it up
Okay,
a half an hour is gonna,
I'll talk to him and I'll email you guys. I'll send you a little note on it, okay? Let's see, and next, August, September. Normally, we would be the third Thursday, which is the 19th. But well, the question becomes, do we want to meet on the 19th and then early in October? Because I want to get started on the big stuff and bring some guys in, like on the ambulance. That
That's
stuff.
kind of a tough week for me.
The 19th?
Yeah.
What other day would work for you?
Do the 26th or the 12th.
How's everybody else looking? I'm free 12th and the 26th at this point.
yeah, right now, it looks like all three of them are an option.
Okay. So we're meeting the 22nd of August. And then we're gonna meet the 12th, that's like 2 weeks. We can do that, and because then if we need to follow up with anybody, and by that time Austin might have his stuff in. The requests in
What
for
is
us.
his timeline or deadline for people to get requests over to him? Do we know?
That's for us to set.
I mean, were we saying it was gonna be towards the end of September or October? I mean, if we say it's the 26th, then we have a meeting on the 26th. We should have most, most of the information, I would hope.
Yeah,
Or,
we can say, look, this is what we'd like, and if you wanna set the 30th of September as a deadline, then the first week in October, we should have stuff by Austin. So if we're just gonna vet what we already have, then we can meet on the 12th, or we can meet on the 26th, just to vet, because then we'd probably be meeting within a week or two after that, so. You say the 12th? That is what, a week and a half? That's about 2 weeks to meet.
Will most people have things in? What's been the typical history?
Well, that will be for vetting what we already have.
Okay,
Like, you get a $250,000 street sweeper. We gotta
Okay.
find out if it's still there, how are we gonna
Okay.
pay for it? Is it gonna go through stormwater? Is it gonna go through sewer? Is it gonna go
Okay.
through the town? Are we gonna borrow? So that stuff we can clean up ahead of time.
So then I guess after that, we would wanna know what our deadline is gonna be.
We can set our deadline tonight and I can notify Austin tomorrow. And the crunch is, we're starting a month late, so.
now what were we, so, do we decide the 12th or the 26th for September?
I think I'd like to see the 12th. I don't expect too much to come in. A lot of this stuff has been there for 2 years. In fact, Ron started this process initially, previous town administrator. Not a lot has changed. We might get some maintenance items like from the council on aging and that kind of stuff. DPW, I don't know, so we got the 12th, okay. Okay, so then. We could meet on the 10th of October. That would give us, because I don't know, meeting on the 24th is gonna do us, I'm sorry, the 26th, if we set the deadline for the 30th. It's gonna do us much good at this point.
I can
So-
do the 10th.
Huh?
I can do the 10th.
Okay, October 10th.
Yeah,
I
so we've
can do
got
the
what,
10th.
yeah, so we got, yeah, September 12th and then October 10th, yeah.
And then, because we're getting into the holidays, I'd like to see us do October 24th,
I'm away.
okay? I hope it's someplace nice and not on business.
Not business.
Okay. October 31st is Halloween? Or 30th?
31st, so that's a.
Yes, that's
a
out. I
no-go.
don't wanna do that. Are you gonna be gone on the 23rd, Dan, too?
Mm-hmm. The whole
Okay.
week.
What about October the 30th,
How about the 29th?
29th, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how are we looking on the 29th for everybody?
I think I should be.
No, yeah, I think I can make
Good.
that.
At 29?
Yeah.
Okay. And then like, we need to get one more in November before the holidays, so I'm looking at November 14th. And then usually we don't do much between November and January. Call me a liar this year. I know it's the first day of American Indian Heritage. I think. No, it's not. Okay. So how does the 14th look?
I think the
Okay.
14th looks good.
Chris?
Yeah, I can do the 14th of November.
Okay. How you looking for the 14th, Susan?
It looks good,
Good? Okay.
yes.
So tentatively, these will be 6:30. I'll check with Brisson. I don't really think we should go to 7 o'clock because that gets too late when we get out of here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So 6:30, 6 or 6:30, we'll talk to Brisson, but 6:30, I think, that's been that way since we started, 6:30. So, okay. Any other questions, comments, any other business that we haven't previously discussed?
No.
I assure you, Chris, that N will be missing. I assure you.
I don't know, I'd hold them to that.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate getting the start off. I think this is a good start for the year to get our action going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Susan, do you have any questions about anything? I know it was a lot to
so.
take in tonight. We did cover a lot. If you have any questions, give me or anybody in the committee a
Okay.
call.
I think
But we really appreciate you being here. I know it may not be evident now, but when the school starts sending us stuff and the master plan, not the master plan, but they did an analysis of how many children are gonna be there, what's gonna be needed, schools and so forth. When that comes in, I know it'll be really valuable having you here. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You guys had me there for a minute.
I made enough motions for one day.
Okay.
I'll second though.
All right. Make your motion, having a second. Do I, let me hear a roll call.
Gracie, aye.
Boris and I.
Lopez, aye.
Second, aye. Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody.